The radio crackled at 3:17 a.m. Unit 47. We have a code black on the 805. Officer Marcus Chen's hands froze on the steering wheel. Code black wasn't in any manual, wasn't in any training, but every highway patrol officer in San Diego knew what it meant. The desert wind howled through his open window, carrying the metallic taste of fear. His headlights cut through the darkness ahead, illuminating nothing but empty asphalt stretching toward the Mexican border. "Copy, dispatch," he whispered into his radio. "En route." His partner Jake had warned him about the night shift, about the calls that came after midnight, about the rules they never wrote down. Rule 1, never question a code black. Rule 2, never go alone. Rule 3, what you see stays in the desert. Marcus pressed the accelerator. The speedometer climbed past 90, past 100. His phone buzzed. A text from Jake. "Turn around, now." Another buzz. "Some roads aren't meant for rookies." The radio crackled again. This time the voice was different. Older, colder. Unit 47. Disregard previous transmission. Marcus felt sweat beating on his forehead despite the desert chill. The dispatcher's voice had changed mid-sentence. Like someone else had taken over. Unit 47, proceed to mile marker 23. Look for the red reflectors. Red reflectors. Marcus had driven this stretch 100 times. There were no red reflectors on the 805. His headlights swept across a sign. Mile marker 22. Then 23, and there they were. 3 red reflectors, glowing like eyes in the darkness, marking a dirt road that shouldn't exist, a road that led into the Anza Borrego Desert. Marcus pulled over, engine idling. His radio was silent now. Even the static had died. In the distance, he could see headlights, multiple vehicles moving in a convoy toward the mountains. His phone buzzed one final time. Jake's message read, "Whatever you do, don't follow the red lights. Some things are older than the badge." Marcus looked at the dirt road, at the red reflectors, at the convoy disappearing into the desert darkness. He thought about his oath, about serving and protecting, about the strange rules that kept San Diego's highway patrol officers alive. But some rules, he was about to learn, existed for reasons that had nothing to do with traffic violations. What was waiting in the desert that night? San Diego's Highway 8 stretches like a concrete river through the desert. For 40 years, the California Highway Patrol has maintained order on these roads, but some officers carry more than just standard-issue equipment. They carry a manual that doesn't officially exist. Officer Marcus Chen discovered this 6 months ago, when his training sergeant handed him a leather-bound notebook. "Memorize it," Sergeant Williams said, his weathered hands trembling slightly. "Then burn the pages." The cover bore no title, no department seal. Just a date, 1952. Inside, 17 rules written in faded blue ink. Rule 1, never patrol mile marker 23 alone after midnight. Rule 7, if you see children walking the shoulder at dawn, do not stop. Rule 13, the woman in the white dress will ask for a ride to Oceanside. Always refuse. Chen thought it was hazing. Every rookie gets the ghost stories, the urban legends. But Williams's eyes held something darker than tradition. They held fear. "These roads have history," Williams whispered, glancing toward the desert horizon. "Bad history." The manual spoke of accidents that weren't accidents, of missing persons reports filed but never investigated, of patrol cars found empty, engines still running, radios crackling with static. Each rule came with a story. Each story came with a body count. Rule 15 detailed the Riverside incident of 1987. 3 officers responded to a stranded motorist call. Only one returned. He spoke of shadows that moved against the headlights, of voices calling from the darkness beyond the asphalt. The department buried the report, promoted the survivor to desk duty, never spoke of it again. But the rules remained, passed down like a curse from one generation to the next. Chen memorized every word, every warning. The smell of old leather and fear sweat clung to the pages. His fingers traced the careful handwriting, noting how some entries were written in different inks. Different hands. Different decades of terror. The manual wasn't just rules. It was a testament to something hunting California's highways, something that had been feeding on travelers for 70 years, something that turned routine traffic stops into nightmares. Chen burned the pages as instructed, watched the rules curl into ash and smoke, but the words remained burned into his memory. Every shift, he carried them like bullets in his mental chamber. Every mile marker became a countdown, every radio call a potential death sentence, because Chen was about to learn that some rules exist for reasons beyond human understanding, and breaking them comes with a price measured in blood. That was just the beginning. Officer Jake Martinez had been patrolling the I-5 corridor for exactly 6 days when he learned about rule number 7. The summer heat shimmered off the asphalt like liquid mercury. His patrol car's air conditioning wheezed against the 98-degree San Diego afternoon. The radio crackled with routine traffic stops and fender benders. Then came the call that changed everything. Unit 47, respond to mile marker 23, southbound, vehicle assistance requested. Jake's training officer, Sergeant Carol Reeves, reached across and switched off the radio with a sharp click. The sudden silence felt suffocating. "We don't respond to mile marker 23, she said, her knuckles white against the steering wheel. "But dispatch just Rule 7, Martinez. We never, under any circumstances, stop at mile marker 23 between sunset and sunrise." Jake stared at the radio. Static whispered through the speakers like distant screams. What happens at mile marker 23? Reeves's jaw tightened. She'd been patrolling these highways for 15 years. She'd seen things that made her question reality itself. 3 years ago, Officer David Chen responded to that exact call. Same mile marker. Same time of evening. Her voice dropped to barely above a whisper. They found his patrol car the next morning. Engine still running, driver's door open, no sign of struggle. The radio crackled again. Unit 47, please respond. Vehicle assistance urgently needed at mile marker 23. Reeves reached for the radio, then stopped. Her hand trembled slightly. Chen's body camera recorded everything, she continued. 23 minutes of footage. But here's the thing, Martinez. The timestamp showed he was there for 6 hours. Jake felt ice in his veins despite the sweltering heat. That's impossible. The department buried the footage, classified it as equipment malfunction. But I've seen it. Reeves turned to face him, her eyes haunted. Chen kept checking his watch, over and over, like time itself was broken. The radio fell silent. Then, impossibly, a new voice cut through the static. Calm, professional, familiar. Unit 47, this is Officer Chen. I'm at mile marker 23. Everything's fine here. Just need backup for a routine traffic stop? Reeves's face went chalk white. David Chen had been dead for 3 years, but the real horror hadn't even begun. The radio crackled at 2:47 a.m., another Highway 163 incident. I'd been patrolling San Diego's arteries for 3 years, long enough to know the unwritten rules, the ones they don't teach at the academy. Rule number 7. Always carry salt in your patrol car. Most rookies laugh when they hear it. I used to laugh too. Until that October night when the fog rolled in from the Pacific like a living thing. The call came from a trucker. White sedan, license plate obscured, weaving between lanes near the Balboa Park exit. Standard DUI stop. Nothing unusual, except the temperature. My breath fogged inside the patrol car despite the heater running full blast. The digital thermometer read 72 degrees, but my hands were numb on the steering wheel. I spotted the sedan pulled over on the shoulder. Hazards blinking. Driver's door hanging open. No movement inside. Protocol says wait for backup on abandoned vehicle calls. But something about the silence made my skin crawl. Even the freeway noise seemed muffled, distant. I approached with my flashlight drawn. The beam cut through the unnatural darkness, revealing scattered belongings across the asphalt. A woman's purse, reading glasses, a child's stuffed elephant. The driver's seat was empty, still warm. That's when I heard it. Humming. Low and melodic, coming from the canyon below the overpass. My training officer's voice echoed in my memory. Some places in San Diego hold on to things. Old things. The salt disrupts whatever lingers. I reached for the small container in my utility belt. Coarse sea salt, blessed by Father Martinez at Mission San Diego. Another rule they don't put in the manual. The humming grew louder, closer, footsteps on gravel behind me. I spun around, salt, ready in my palm. The abandoned sedan's headlights flickered once, twice, then died completely. In the sudden darkness, I saw her, the missing driver, standing 20 feet away, her back to me. She was humming that same haunting melody. "Ma'am?" My voice cracked. "Are you injured?" She stopped humming. Slowly, impossibly, her head began to turn, but her body remained perfectly still, facing away from me. I threw the salt. The scream that followed wasn't human. It echoed off the canyon walls, through the fog, into places sound shouldn't reach. When backup arrived 15 minutes later, they found me sitting in my patrol car. Shaking. The sedan was gone. No trace of the woman. No record of the 911 call. But in my report I wrote, "Routine traffic stop. No violations observed. Some rules exist for a reason, even if you can't explain them." The radio crackled at 2:47 a.m., pulling me from the hypnotic rhythm of empty freeway patrol. Unit 23, we have a code silver on the 805 southbound. Mile marker 15, code silver. The classification that doesn't exist in any manual. I felt my stomach drop as I reached for the special kit beneath my passenger seat. The one they'd given me during that windowless room briefing 6 months ago. The salt. My headlights cut through the marine layer as I approached the scene. No other units. No ambulance. Just me and whatever waited in the darkness beyond the guardrail. The smell hit me first. Copper and ozone, like pennies left in a thunderstorm. Then I saw her. A woman in a white dress stood perfectly still in the center divider, her back to the freeway. Her hair moved in wind that touched nothing else. Every instinct screamed to call for backup. But Rule 7 was absolute. Code Silver incidents require solo response, no witnesses, no questions. I parked 30 feet away, engine running. The salt container felt ice cold through my gloves as I stepped onto the asphalt. "Ma'am, I need you to step away from the roadway." She turned. Her face was wrong. Not disfigured, just fundamentally incorrect, like a photograph printed in the wrong dimensions. Her smile stretched too wide, revealing teeth that caught starlight like broken glass. "Officer," she said, her voice carrying impossible distances. "You're early." The salt burned my palm through the container. Training kicked in. 3 measured steps forward. Pour the circle. Speak the words they'd made me memorize. But as I opened the container, she laughed. The sound shattered my cruiser's windshield 200 feet away. "You still don't understand," she whispered, though I heard her clearly across the distance. "The salt isn't for me." Behind me, footsteps approached on asphalt. Slow. Deliberate. Multiple sets. I spun around, 5 figures in highway patrol uniforms walked toward me, their badges glinting in my headlights. Their faces were hidden in shadow, but their movements were perfectly synchronized, like marionettes controlled by the same hand. The woman's laughter grew louder. "The salt is for you, Officer Martinez. It always was." I looked down at the container in my hands. The granules weren't white anymore. They were moving. But what I saw crawling inside that container made me understand why some rules exist to protect us from ourselves. The radio crackled at 3:17 a.m. on a Tuesday that felt cursed from the start. "Unit 47, we have a 1054 on Highway 163 northbound. Mile marker 23. I knew that stretch. Empty desert road, where the asphalt shimmers like black water under sodium lights, where rule number 7 becomes life or death." Rule number 7. If you see the same hitchhiker 3 times in one shift, do not stop. Do not make eye contact. Call for immediate backup. My hands gripped the steering wheel as I approached mile marker 23. The temperature gauge in my cruiser read 68 degrees, but sweat beaded on my forehead like morning dew. There she was, same woman, same faded blue dress that hung like funeral shrouds in the desert wind. Same thumb extended toward the empty highway. But this time, something was different. This time, she was facing my direction before I rounded the curve. My radio hissed with static. "Unit 47, status report." I couldn't answer. My throat felt packed with sand. Because the woman wasn't just facing my direction. She was smiling, a smile that split her face like a crack in dried earth. Rule number 7 existed for a reason. Every veteran officer in San Diego knew the stories, the disappearances. The patrol cars found empty on this exact stretch of highway, engines still running, doors wide open like screaming mouths. I pressed the accelerator. 45 mpg 50. 55. The woman's head turned as I passed, tracking my movement like a predator following prey. In my rearview mirror, I watched her raise her other hand. She was waving goodbye. My radio erupted. "All units, we have multiple 1054s. Highway 163, Highway 8, Interstate 5, same description, blue dress, blonde hair." My blood turned to ice water in my veins. "Dispatch, how many sightings?" 17 confirmed locations. All simultaneous, all the same woman. I pulled over, hands shaking like autumn leaves. 17 locations, the same hitchhiker, at the exact same time. That's when I understood why rule number 7 existed. That's when I realized the woman in the blue dress wasn't hitchhiking at all. She was collecting. My radio crackled one final time. "Unit 47, return to base immediately. Do not engage. Repeat, do not engage." But as I reached for the radio, I saw her reflection in my windshield, sitting in my back seat. Still smiling. That was just the beginning. Officer Sarah Martinez had never called in sick during her 3 years on San Diego's highway patrol. But the fever that morning felt like molten lead in her veins. Her supervisor's voice crackled through the phone, unusually sharp. "You sure about this, Martinez? Today's complicated." She hung up, collapsing back into sweat-soaked sheets. Outside her apartment window, the morning sun painted Interstate 5 in harsh gold. Traffic moved in its usual rhythm. Then, her phone buzzed. A text from her partner, Rodriguez. "Check the news. Now." Sarah's fingers trembled as she opened the local news app. The headline made her stomach drop into ice water. "Mysterious highway accident claims 7 lives. Patrol officers refuse to comment." The accident had happened on her usual route. Mile marker 47, where she'd been instructed never to stop after midnight, where the rules said to drive past no matter what you saw. The news footage showed twisted metal scattered across asphalt like broken teeth. 7 cars, 7 families. But that wasn't what made Sarah's blood freeze. In the background of the news footage, she could see Rodriguez's patrol car, parked exactly where the rules said to park. Watching, not helping, watching, the reporter's voice cut through her shock. Highway patrol sources confirm officers were in the area, but claim they arrived after the accident occurred. Sarah knew that was a lie. She scrolled through the victim photos. A young mother, twin boys, maybe 8 years old. An elderly man whose smile reminded her of her grandfather. Her phone rang. Rodriguez. Sarah, listen carefully. You were never supposed to be sick today. The schedule? It was arranged. You understand. The room spun around her. What are you saying? I'm saying some of us follow the rules, and some of us, we ask questions. The line went dead. Sarah stared at her reflection in the black phone screen. Her face looked pale, hollow, like someone who just learned she was supposed to watch 7 people die. She thought about the rules, the ones that made no sense, the ones that kept her away from certain places at certain times, the ones that weren't about traffic safety at all. Her laptop sat open on the nightstand. She could research the victims, find their families, learn their names, or she could follow the rules and pretend she'd never seen the news. But first, she needed to know exactly how many officers had been sick that morning. Because if she was right, this wasn't the first time the schedule had been arranged. Officer Sarah Chen grips the steering wheel tighter as the radio crackles to life at 11:47 p.m. Unit 47, we have a code silver on Interstate 8 eastbound. Mile marker 23, code silver. The designation that makes every highway patrol officer's blood run cold. Sarah's training kicks in as she flips to page 847 of the manual. The page that's never supposed to exist. The protocol written in red ink that warns, vehicle pursuit involving anomalous circumstances. Standard traffic laws suspended. The smell of burnt rubber fills her nostrils as she accelerates past 90 Majmambrist. Her headlights cut through the desert darkness, illuminating something that shouldn't be possible. And a 1967 Mustang, license plate reading Eternal, weaving between lanes at impossible speeds. The car appears to phase through other vehicles like smoke through glass. Sarah's radio hisses with static. Then, a voice that sounds like her own speaks back to her. Unit 47, you're about to learn why some chases never end. The temperature in her patrol car drops 20 degrees in seconds. Her breath fogs the windshield as she reads Rule 847C aloud. If the pursued vehicle exhibits temporal displacement, officer must maintain visual contact until sunrise. Breaking pursuit results in immediate reassignment to the Forgotten Division. Nobody talks about the Forgotten Division. Officers go there and their families stop remembering their names. The Mustang's brake lights flicker in a pattern. 3 short, 3 long, 3 short. SOS in Morse code. Sarah realizes the driver isn't running from her. They're leading her somewhere. Mile marker 23 approaches. The same marker where Officer Rodriguez disappeared 6 months ago. His patrol car was found empty. Engine still running. Radio playing a song from 1967. The Mustang takes the exit ramp that doesn't appear on any map. Sarah follows, her speedometer needle spinning wildly between 60 and 160 mph without her touching the accelerator. Desert sand whips against her windows, but there's no wind. The stars above form constellations that astronomers claim went extinct centuries ago. Rule 847D flashes in her memory. When pursuing temporal anomalies, remember that you may be chasing yourself. The Mustang stops at a gas station that closed in 1973. Sarah parks behind it, her hands trembling as she reaches for her radio. The driver's door opens. A figure in a highway patrol uniform steps out, removes their helmet, and turns around. Sarah stares into her own face, aged 20 years, scarred by something unspeakable. The older Sarah mouths words through the windshield. "You have to choose now." Then the radio crackles again with a voice Sarah recognizes as her sergeant's. "Unit 47, what's your status? We show you've been stationary for 3 hours. Sarah checks her watch. It's still 11:47 p.m., but what her older self says next changes everything. Officer Sarah Chen thought she knew every rule in the Highway Patrol Manual, until dispatch crackled through her radio at 11:47 p.m. Unit 47, we have a code silver on Interstate 5 southbound. Mile marker 23. Engage Midnight Protocol immediately. Code silver. A designation that didn't exist in any training manual. Sarah's hands trembled as she reached for her response button. The desert air through her open window carried the metallic scent of something burning in the distance. Dispatch, requesting clarification on Code Silver procedures. Silence stretched for 30 seconds. Then a different voice came through. Older, gravelly, unfamiliar. "Officer Chen, you will pursue the target vehicle using only your headlights. No sirens, no backup, no radio contact once pursuit begins. Drive until the target stops. Do not question what you see." The radio went dead. Sarah's speedometer climbed past 90 as she spotted taillights ahead. A black sedan, license plate obscured by what looked like dried mud. Or blood. The pursuit lasted 43 minutes through winding canyon roads that didn't appear on any GPS map. The sedan's brake lights never flickered. It took every turn perfectly, as if the driver knew exactly where they were going. Sarah's fuel gauge dropped impossibly fast. Her radio remained silent despite repeated attempts to reach dispatch. Then the sedan stopped. Middle of nowhere. No buildings, no streetlights, just endless desert stretching toward mountains that seemed too close and too sharp against the star-filled sky. Sarah parked 50 feet behind the target vehicle, her hands slick with sweat on the steering wheel. The sedan's driver door opened. A figure emerged. Tall, wearing what appeared to be an old highway patrol uniform. The fabric looked decades out of date, faded and torn. The figure turned toward her cruiser. Sarah's blood turned to ice. The face was her own. Older, scarred, with eyes that held the weight of too many midnight pursuits. The other Sarah raised one hand in a slow wave, then pointed toward the passenger seat of the sedan. Something moved in the back seat. Something that shouldn't exist. Sarah's radio suddenly burst to life. Unit 47. Pursuit successful. Exit your vehicle and approach the target. This is where your real training begins. The voice was her own, speaking from inside the sedan, but the real horror hadn't even begun. The radio crackled at 3:17 a.m., pulling me from the restless doze that passes for sleep on graveyard patrol. Unit 47, respond to mile marker 23, southbound I-5. Code 7, the rule they never put in the manual. I'd been working highway patrol in San Diego for 8 months now. Long enough to learn that some calls don't exist in the official logs. Long enough to know that when dispatch uses Code 7, you don't ask questions. You just drive. The Pacific stretched black beyond the guardrail, waves pounding against the cliffs below. Salt spray misted my windshield as I pulled onto the shoulder. The air tasted of brine and something else, something metallic that made my throat tighten. No other units in sight. That was Rule 12. Code 7 calls are always solo. I stepped out, flashlight cutting through the fog. The beam caught something glinting 20 feet down the embankment. Metal. Chrome. The twisted remains of a sedan, steam still rising from its crumpled hood. But here's what made my blood freeze. The car was completely dry. No skid marks on the asphalt. No broken glass on the road. No debris trail. Just a perfectly intact highway and a destroyed vehicle that somehow materialized at the bottom of a cliff I called it in. Unit 47 to dispatch. Vehicle down, possible fatality. Silence stretched for 30 seconds. Then, Unit 47, follow Protocol 7 Alpha. Protocol 7 Alpha. Another rule that doesn't exist. I opened my trunk, hands shaking as I retrieved the black duffel bag I'd hoped never to use. Inside, industrial-grade bleach, a digital camera with no memory card, and forms printed on paper that dissolved in water. The first photo I took showed the wreckage clearly. The second, taken from the same angle 3 seconds later, showed only empty rocks. My radio crackled again. Unit 47. Was anyone hurt? I stared at the empty cliff face, then at my camera's blank display. Negative, dispatch, false alarm. Copy that. Return to patrol. As I drove away, my rearview mirror caught headlights approaching the same spot. A tow truck with no company markings, arriving to collect a car that was no longer there. That's when I realized the most terrifying truth about working highway patrol in San Diego. Some accidents aren't accidents at all. But what I discovered in that black duffel bag would change everything I thought I knew about my job. The rain hammered my windshield as I pulled over near mile marker 47. A figure stood in the downpour, thumb extended into the darkness. Against every regulation in the book, I stopped. The woman who climbed into my patrol car was soaked to the bone. Her clothes clung to her frame, and her eyes held a terror I'd seen before, the same look as the accident victims. "Thank you, officer," she whispered, water dripping from her hair onto my leather seats. The heater blasted warm air, but she continued shivering. "Where are you headed?" I asked, checking my mirrors. The highway stretched empty behind us, swallowed by rain and shadow. "Away from here." Her voice cracked. "You need to know something about this stretch of road." My radio crackled with static. Dispatch had been silent for 3 hours, another violation of protocol I'd learned to accept. "The accidents aren't accidents," she continued, staring straight ahead. "They're selections." Cold air seemed to seep through the sealed windows. The smell of wet asphalt mixed with something else, something metallic and wrong. "What do you mean, selections?" She turned to face me, and in the dashboard's green glow, I saw the truth written in her features. The same bone structure. The same eyes. She looked exactly like Sarah Martinez, the woman who died in the 3-car collision 2 weeks ago. "The highway chooses," she whispered. "It's been choosing for decades. Every officer who patrols this section learns the rules eventually." My hands tightened on the steering wheel. The rain intensified, drumming against the roof like desperate fingers. "Rule 7, she continued. "Never question the passengers who appear after midnight." I'd never heard of Rule 7. Rule 8, always drive them to mile marker 52. The speedometer read exactly 52 madrmi. I hadn't touched the accelerator. And Rule 9. Her voice faded to barely a whisper. "Never look in the rearview mirror while they're in your car." Every instinct screamed at me to check the mirror. To confirm what I already knew, the passenger seat beside me was empty, had been empty the entire time. But her voice continued from the back seat, soft and final. "Rule 10, Officer Chen, the most important rule of all." I forced myself to keep staring straight ahead as mile marker 52 appeared in my headlights. "What's Rule 10? Managed to ask. Silence filled the car. Then, from directly behind my ear, a breath that smelled of rain and earth. "Some passengers never really leave. The basement of the San Diego Highway Patrol headquarters smells like bleach and fear." Officer Martinez descends the concrete steps, his flashlight cutting through darkness that shouldn't exist in a government building. The fluorescent lights above flicker once, then die completely. His radio crackles with static. "Martinez, you copy?" Silence. The beam of his flashlight reveals filing cabinets lining the walls. Hundreds of them. each labeled with dates going back 40 years. But these aren't traffic violations or accident reports. These are the disappeared. Martinez pulls open the first drawer. Inside, photographs spill across his trembling fingers. Drivers who broke Rule 7. Families who asked too many questions about missing loved ones. Journalists who got too close to the truth. Each photo bears the same red stamp. Relocated. But relocated where? His flashlight catches something else. A map of San Diego County marked with red X's. Dozens of them scattered across the desert east of the city. Each X corresponds to a file number. Each X marks a grave. The sound of footsteps echoes from above. Heavy boots on linoleum. Multiple sets, moving with military precision toward the basement door. Martinez's hands shake as he photographs the evidence with his phone. The flash illuminates something written on the wall behind the cabinets. Highway Patrol Directive 1984. Maintain the silence at all costs. Below it, a list of names. His training sergeant, the chief, the mayor, even the coroner who ruled all those highway deaths as accidents. They're all part of it. The footsteps stop at the top of the stairs. Martinez realizes the horrible truth. The strange rules aren't about protecting officers or maintaining order. They're about covering up the largest serial killing operation in California history. For 40 years, the San Diego Highway Patrol has been systematically eliminating anyone who threatens to expose their activities. The rules ensure silence. The transfers ensure fresh victims. The accidents ensure no investigations. The basement door opens with a metallic screech. "Martinez," calls a familiar voice. Sergeant Williams, the man who trained him, the man who taught him the rules, the man whose name is on the wall. "We know you're down there, son. Come on up. We need to talk." Martinez switches off his flashlight and presses himself against the cold concrete wall. His phone shows no signal. No way to call for help. No way to warn anyone. The footsteps begin their descent, slow and deliberate. But Martinez isn't the only one who discovered the truth tonight. The radio crackled at 3:17 a.m. with coordinates I'd never heard before. Mile marker 47 on the 8 East, past the last gas station, where the Desert Swallow's headlights hole. Dispatch's voice carried that familiar tremor. Code 19, assault protocol in effect. I'd been patrolling San Diego highways for 8 years. Never heard of Code 19. The asphalt stretched endlessly under my cruiser's beams. Temperature dropping fast in the October air. My breath fogged the windshield as I drove deeper into nothing. Then I saw them. 5 patrol cars arranged in a perfect circle, red and blue lights painting the sand like a crime scene. But no accident. No bodies. Just salt. Pure, white salt poured in an unbroken ring around something in the center. The circle had to be 30 feet across. The salt line thick as my wrist. Sergeant Martinez approached my window, his face pale in the strobing lights. "You're late, Rodriguez. We've been holding position for 20 minutes. "Holding position for what?" He pointed toward the circle's center. "Look closer." I stepped out. The desert air bit my skin. Silence so complete I heard my own heartbeat. Inside the salt ring sat a single black sedan, California plates, engine still running, driver's door hanging open like a broken wing. But the car was sinking. Not into sand, into something else, something that shouldn't exist on solid ground. The front bumper had already disappeared. Dark liquid bubbled around the tires. "What the hell is that?" Martinez's radio hissed. "All units maintain perimeter. Do not breach the salt line under any circumstances." "Sarge, there could be someone in that car." "There was someone in that car." His voice dropped to a whisper. Driver called 911 screaming about shadows following him. Said they were coming up through his floorboards. The sedan lurched deeper. Now only the roof remained visible. We have protocols for this, Rodriguez. Rules that keep us alive. Rules that keep things contained. I stared at the disappearing car. At the salt circle holding back whatever hungry darkness waited beneath our highways. How long have you known about this? Martinez checked his watch. The sedan's antenna vanished with a wet sucking sound. Every officer learns eventually. Question is whether they follow the rules or become part of the problem. The radio crackled again. All units clear the perimeter. Protocol complete. But as we drove away, I saw Martinez watching me in his rearview mirror, like he was deciding which category I belonged in. The real question wasn't what we'd just witnessed. It was how many officers before me had asked too many questions. Officer Sarah Martinez pulled over her third white sedan in 2 hours. Same make, same model, same year. The desert wind carried the scent of sage and something metallic as she approached the driver's window. Her boots crunched on gravel that shouldn't have been there. Highway 8 was freshly paved. Rule 17 echoed in her mind. When patterns emerge in threes, document everything. Trust nothing. The driver's license showed a different name each time, different faces. But the eyes, those eyes were identical. Sarah's radio crackled with static that formed almost words. The temperature gauge in her patrol car read 47 degrees, though sweat beaded on her forehead in the San Diego heat. License and registration, she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. The driver smiled. Perfect teeth. Too perfect. You're learning the patterns, Officer Martinez. He knew her name. She hadn't given it. The dashboard clock blinked 3:33 a.m., though her shift had started at 2 p.m. Time moved differently out here on the eastern routes, where the city lights faded into something older. Sarah's training manual had warned about this. Page 127, subsection C. Temporal anomalies increase with proximity to the Anza-Borrego boundary. She thought it was a joke. The driver's reflection didn't appear in her side mirror. The others didn't notice, he continued, his voice like wind through empty canyons. But you're different. You follow the rules. Rule 23. Never engage in extended conversation with repeat pattern subjects. But Rule 41. Information gathering supersedes standard protocol when public safety is at risk. Conflicting rules. They always gave conflicting rules. What others? Sarah asked, her hand moving instinctively toward her service weapon. The metal felt ice cold against her palm. Officer Chen, Officer Williams, Officer Rodriguez. 3 names from the memo. Ryle Wall back at headquarters. 3 officers who died on Highway 8 in the past 5 years. 3 officers whose bodies were never found. They stopped following the rules, the driver whispered. Sarah's radio burst to life. Unit 47, respond to mile marker 23. Officer needs assistance. Mile marker 23 was behind her. She'd passed it an hour ago. The driver's seat was empty, but the engine was still running, and in the distance, Sarah could see red and blue lights flashing where no road should exist. She looked down at her notepad. 3 identical license plates were written there in handwriting that wasn't hers. The pattern was complete. But what came after 3? The radio crackled at 11:47 p.m. Unit 247. We have a Code 3 pursuit southbound on I-5. Officer Martinez reached for his radio, then stopped. His hand trembled above the transmitter. Rule number 7. Never pursue between midnight and 3 a.m. on weekends. The dispatcher's voice grew urgent. All available units. Suspect vehicle is a black sedan, license plate obscured, speeds exceeding 90 mph. Martinez watched his speedometer climb past 85. The sedan's taillights danced ahead like red demons in the darkness. Every instinct screamed to follow, but the rules existed for a reason. 3 months ago, Officer Chen had ignored this rule. They found his patrol car wrapped around a concrete barrier at 2:17 a.m. No skid marks, no explanation. The black sedan took the Balboa Park exit. Martinez's radio buzzed with chatter from units converging on the area. But something felt wrong. The voices sounded different, distorted. "Unit 247, what's your 20? He recognized Sergeant Walsh's voice, but it carried an echo that made his skin crawl. Like it was coming from underwater. The sedan had vanished. Martinez pulled over, engine idling. The digital clock read 11:59 p.m., 1 minute until the forbidden hours began. That's when he saw them. Other patrol cars lined up along the shoulder like sleeping giants. Dark, silent, no movement inside. He counted 7 vehicles, all facing the same direction, all perfectly spaced. Martinez grabbed his flashlight and approached the nearest car. Officer Thompson sat behind the wheel, hands at 10 and 2, eyes open, staring straight ahead, not blinking. "Thompson?" Martinez tapped the window. No response. Thompson's chest didn't rise or fall. Martinez checked the next car. Officer Davis. Same position, same vacant stare. 7 cars, 7 officers. All arranged like pieces on a chessboard. The radio crackled again. "Unit 247, please respond." But now, Martinez recognized the voice. It was Thompson. The same Thompson sitting motionless in car number 1. The clock struck midnight. Every patrol car's headlights turned on simultaneously, flooding the highway with blinding white light. Martinez shielded his eyes, stumbling backward toward his vehicle. When the light faded, the cars were gone, all except one. His own patrol car sat empty, engine running, driver's door hanging open. And there, in the distance, he could see the black sedan waiting. But the real horror hadn't even begun. Officer Jake Martinez thought he'd seen everything in his 12 years patrolling San Diego's highways. The smell of burnt rubber and spilled coffee filled the break room as Captain Rodriguez closed the door behind them. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead like dying insects. "What I'm about to tell you stays in this room," Rodriguez said, his weathered hands trembling as he poured whiskey into 2 paper cups. Jake had followed the rules perfectly for months. No stops between 2 and 4 a.m. Never pursue vehicles with tinted windows past the 805 interchange. Always report equipment malfunction when the radio crackled with those strange frequencies. But tonight, Rodriguez looked like a man carrying the weight of buried sins. The rules aren't about safety, Martinez. They're about containment. The captain's voice dropped to a whisper. Outside, the October wind rattled the windows of the precinct like skeletal fingers. In 1987, we had an officer named Tommy Chen. Good kid, followed orders, never asked questions, until he started noticing patterns. Jake's coffee grew cold in his hands. The break room felt smaller now, the walls pressing in. Chen documented everything. License plates that appeared on multiple vehicles, drivers who looked identical but gave different names, routes that led to places that shouldn't exist on any map. Rodriguez pulled out a manila folder, its edges yellow with age. Inside were photographs, grainy black and white images that made Jake's stomach turn. The department has been protecting something for 36 years, something that feeds on the highways after midnight, something that wears human faces but isn't human. The fluorescent light flickered, casting dancing shadows across the photographs. Jake could make out shapes in the images, figures standing beside patrol cars, their faces too perfect, their smiles too wide. Chen tried to expose it, filed reports, contacted the media, even reached out to federal agencies. Rodriguez's hand shook as he pointed to the final photograph. It showed a patrol car, doors open, emergency lights still flashing, but no officer in sight. They found his cruiser on the side of Interstate 8. Engine running, radio still crackling with those frequencies, but Tommy Chen was never seen again. The room fell silent, except for the hum of electricity and the distant sound of traffic. Every officer who's tried to break the rules has disappeared, Martinez. Every single one. Jake stared at the photographs, his mind racing. The strange radio calls, the restricted zones, the unexplained patrol schedules, it all made terrible sense now. So we follow the rules, Rodriguez continued, because the alternative is becoming another missing person report. But as Jake looked closer at the photographs, his blood turned to ice. In the background of Chen's final crime scene photo, barely visible in the shadows, stood a figure in a highway patrol uniform. A figure that looked exactly like Jake himself. The call came in at 3:17 a.m. Dispatch's voice crackled through my radio, but the words made my blood freeze. Unit 47, respond to mile marker 23 on Highway 8. Code Silver. Code Silver. The classification that doesn't exist in any manual. I'd been patrolling San Diego's highways for 8 years. I thought I knew every protocol, every procedure. But 6 months ago, they handed me a black binder with rules that defied everything I understood about law enforcement. Rule 23. When you encounter a perfect circle of white substance on asphalt, do not approach without proper protection. The desert highway stretched endlessly under my headlights. No other traffic, just me and whatever waited at mile marker 23. Then I saw it, a perfect circle of white salt, maybe 10 feet across, gleaming like bone in my spotlight. In the center sat a 1987 Honda Civic, engine still running, driver's door hanging open. The metallic taste of fear coated my tongue. I reached for my radio, following Protocol 23B. Dispatch, requesting backup unit with special equipment. Negative, Unit 47. You're authorized to proceed alone. My hands trembled as I opened the black binder. Page 127 detailed the Salt Circle Protocol with surgical precision. Step 1. Exit vehicle exactly 12 feet from the perimeter. Step 2. Retrieve the blessed iron rod from your trunk. Blessed iron rod? I'd laughed when they issued it. Wasn't laughing now. The desert wind carried something wrong. Not quite a scent, more like the memory of burning. My skin prickled with static electricity as I approached the circle's edge. Inside the Honda, a woman's purse sat on the passenger seat. Keys dangled from the ignition. A half-eaten sandwich on the dashboard, still warm, but no driver. Then I noticed the footprints in the salt. Bare feet, leading from the car to the circle's exact center, where they simply stopped. The iron rod grew ice-cold in my grip. According to the protocol, I had 2 choices: call the cleanup crew and file a Code Silver report, or step inside the circle and discover why 17 people had vanished from Highway 8 in the past year. The radio crackled again. Unit 47, what's your status? I stared at those impossible footprints, ending in empty air. Then I heard something that made my heart stop. Soft humming, coming from directly above the circle. I looked up into the star-filled sky and something looked back. But what I saw there wasn't supposed to exist. Mile marker 47 on Interstate 8. The desert heat shimmers off asphalt like liquid mercury. I pull over for what looks like a stranded motorist. Standard procedure. Help first, questions later, but this isn't standard. The woman stands perfectly still beside a rusted sedan. No waving, no distress signals. Just waiting. Her clothes are wrong. Faded floral dress from decades past. Hair styled like it's 1962. The temperature gauge in my patrol car reads 104 degrees. She's not sweating. Ma'am. Do you need assistance? She turns. Her eyes are the color of old pennies, tarnished and dull. Officer Martinez, she says. My nameplate faces away from her. You've been following the rules. My hand instinctively moves to my service weapon. The metal burns hot against my palm. The midnight protocols, the unmarked zones, the passengers you don't question. Her voice carries no accent, no regional markers, like she learned English from a textbook. I don't know what you're talking about. Rule 17, she continues. When the radio plays music from before your birth, don't change the station. I never told anyone about that rule. It's not in any manual. Rule 23. If you see the same hitchhiker 3 times in one shift, offer them a ride on the 4th encounter. The desert wind stops. Complete silence except for my heartbeat hammering against my ribs. How many times have you seen me tonight, Officer Martinez? I count backward through my shift. The woman at mile marker 23. The figure by the abandoned gas station. The silhouette near the border checkpoint. 3 times. This is the 4th, she whispers. My radio crackles. Dispatch's voice sounds different. Older, like it's traveling through decades of static. Unit 47, you have a passenger pickup at your location. I never called in a pickup request. The woman walks toward my patrol car. Each step echoes despite the sand beneath her feet. The rules exist for a reason, she says, reaching for the passenger door handle. Some boundaries shouldn't be crossed. Some passengers carry more than luggage. Her fingers touch the metal. The handle turns. But tonight, Officer Martinez, you're going to learn why we made an exception. The door opens with a sound like grinding bone. Inside my patrol car, the passenger seat isn't empty anymore. Someone else is already sitting there. Someone wearing my face. Officer Sarah Martinez sits in Captain Reynolds' office at 2:47 a.m. The fluorescent lights buzz overhead. Her hands shake as she holds the manila folder. Inside are photographs. Accident scenes that never made it to the official reports. You understand why these rules exist now, Reynolds says. His voice carries 30 years of weight. Sarah stares at the first photo. Highway 163, mile marker 47. The same stretch where she encountered the shadow figure 3 weeks ago. But this photo is from 1987. The twisted metal looks identical. The positioning of the vehicles matches perfectly. Even the skid marks follow the same pattern. Every 7 years, Reynolds continues. Same location, same outcome. We've been documenting it since 1973. Her throat feels dry. The coffee on his desk has gone cold hours ago. The rules aren't arbitrary, Martinez. They're survival protocols. She flips to the next photo. 1994. Another perfect match. Then, 2001, 2008, 2015. The victims' faces blur together. Different people, same fate. Rule number 12, she whispers. Never investigate alone between midnight and 3 a.m. Because that's when it hunts, Reynolds confirms. The air conditioning kicks in. Cold air raises goosebumps on her arms. What is it? Sarah asks. Reynolds opens his desk drawer. Inside sits a leather journal, edges worn smooth by decades of handling. The Caltrans crew that built that section of highway in 1971. They found something during construction. Something that should have stayed buried. He slides the journal across his desk. The foreman's notes. Read page 43. Sarah's fingers tremble as she opens the journal. The handwriting is cramped, urgent. Day 127. Found the chamber today. Stone walls covered in symbols. Martinez thinks we should report it. I think we should cover it up and forget we ever saw it. Day 128. Martinez went back alone. We found his body this morning. Coroner says heart attack, but his face... Christ, his face looked like he'd seen hell itself. Day 129. Poured concrete over the chamber, sealed it forever. God help us if we're wrong. Sarah looks up. Reynolds is watching her carefully. The highway runs directly over that chamber, he says, and every 7 years something breaks through. The photographs seem to pulse in the fluorescent light. Tomorrow marks exactly 7 years since the last incident, Reynolds adds. Sarah's radio crackles to life. Dispatch reports an accident on Highway 163, mile marker 47. But according to her watch, tomorrow doesn't start for 17 minutes. Officer Martinez gripped the steering wheel as his radio crackled to life at 11:47 p.m. Dispatch's voice cut through the desert silence. Unit 23. We have a Code 7 on Highway 8, mile marker 47, Code 7. The rule they never taught at the academy. Martinez had been patrolling San Diego's highways for 8 years. He knew the official codes by heart. But Code 7 wasn't in any manual. It meant someone had seen the lights, the amber headlights that appeared in rearview mirrors on moonless nights, the ones that followed cars for exactly 13 miles before vanishing. Martinez had learned about Code 7 during his 3rd week on patrol. Sergeant Chen pulled him aside after shift, voice barely above a whisper. When you get a Code 7, you respond alone. No backup. No questions. What am I supposed to do? You follow the protocol in your glove compartment, the yellow envelope. And Martinez. Chen's eyes were hollow. You never speak of what you see. Now, racing toward mile marker 47, Martinez felt the yellow envelope burning against his palm. He'd opened it once before, during his first Code 7 3 years ago. The instructions were typed on old paper, edges yellowed with age. Rule 1, arrive exactly at midnight. Rule 2, turn off all communications. Rule 3, exit your vehicle and walk to the center line. Rule 4, wait. Rule 5, when the lights appear, do not look directly at them. Rule 6, listen for the voice. Rule 7, you have 30 seconds to choose. Martinez's speedometer hit 90 as he approached the marker. His dashboard clock read 11:58, the highway stretched empty in both directions. Black, asphalt disappearing into desert darkness. No other cars, no witnesses. He parked on the shoulder and checked his watch. 11:59, the radio went silent as he switched it off. His phone showed no signal. Martinez stepped onto the cold asphalt, his boots echoing in the vast emptiness. The center line stretched like a yellow scar beneath the starless sky. He walked to the exact middle of the highway and waited. Midnight arrived with absolute silence. Then, in the distance, 2 amber lights appeared. They moved without sound, growing larger, brighter. Martinez forced himself to look at the ground as the lights approached. The temperature dropped 20 degrees in seconds. His breath misted in the suddenly frigid air. The lights stopped directly in front of him. A voice spoke from nowhere and everywhere at once. Ancient, patient, hungry. Officer Martinez, your 3rd summons. Time to choose. His hands trembled as he reached for the yellow envelope. But this time the instructions inside had changed. Officer Martinez pulled over at mile marker 47. The radio crackled with static. Then silence. This stretch of Interstate 5 didn't exist on any official map. Not anymore. The asphalt here felt different under his boots. Softer, like it was still cooling from when they poured it in 1987. That was the year San Diego Highway Patrol discovered rule number 47. Never stop at mile marker 47 after 3:17 a.m., Martinez checked his watch. 3:16 a.m., the headlights of passing cars seemed to bend around his patrol vehicle. Physics worked differently here. Light moved like honey. Sound traveled backwards. He remembered Sergeant Collins' briefing from his first week. Some roads remember things, Martinez. This one remembers too much. The mile marker itself was wrong. The metal was too clean, too new. like someone replaced it every night. Martinez walked closer. The numbers weren't painted on. They were carved, deep gouges that looked like claw marks. Behind him, his radio whispered voices in languages that predated Spanish, predated English, predated human speech entirely. The temperature dropped 15 degrees in 3 seconds. This was where Highway Patrol lost Officer Chen in 1994, where Officer Rodriguez vanished in 2001, where Officer Kim's patrol car was found empty in 2019, engine still running, radio still broadcasting her last transmission on repeat, Unit 47 requesting backup. There's something in the road, something that shouldn't be there. Martinez felt the familiar weight of his service weapon. Standard issue wouldn't help here. Nothing standard worked at mile marker 47. The road beneath his feet began to pulse, like a heartbeat, like something massive breathing underground. Rule number 47 existed for a reason. This wasn't just Highway Patrol territory. This was the boundary between what San Diego acknowledged and what it tried to forget. The mile marker started bleeding. Not rust, not paint, blood. Fresh blood that spelled out coordinates in the sand. Coordinates that led to a place that didn't exist. AID. Place where missing officers filed reports to dispatchers who died decades ago. Martinez understood now why they called this stretch the highway between worlds, because it wasn't connecting two cities. It was connecting two realities, and something from the other side was trying to cross over. His radio crackled again. This time, the voice was his own. Unit 47 requesting backup. There's something in the road. But Martinez hadn't spoken. He looked at his watch again. 17 a.m. That's when he realized the blood on the mile marker was spelling out his badge number. But the real horror hadn't even begun. Officer Martinez stared at the manila envelope in his trembling hands. 3 years of following the strange rules had led to this moment. The weight of Protocol 7 pressed against his chest like a stone. Inside the envelope lay the final directive, the one rule that would either save San Diego or damn them all. His radio crackled with static. Unit 47, we have multiple code black incidents across the county. The containment is failing. Martinez felt the familiar chill crawl up his spine. The same ice-cold sensation he'd experienced that first night when Sergeant Walsh had handed him the rulebook, when Walsh had whispered, "Some things patrol these highways that aren't supposed to exist." Now Martinez understood why his predecessor had disappeared, why 3 officers before him had simply vanished from their patrol cars, leaving only cold engines and empty uniforms. The envelope's seal broke with a sound like tearing flesh. Inside, a single photograph and handwritten instructions. The photo showed the Coronado Bridge at exactly 3:17 a.m., but in the image, the bridge stretched impossibly long, disappearing into a darkness that seemed to swallow light itself. The handwriting was Walsh's, but the ink looked fresh despite being dated 15 years ago. When the bridge extends beyond the bay, drive to the center. Stop your vehicle. Exit with your service weapon. Count to 30. Fire 3 shots into the void. Do not look at what emerges. Return to your car. Drive backward until you reach solid ground. This will reset the boundary. Martinez's hands shook as he read the final line. If you fail, San Diego falls into the space between worlds. You will be the last officer to remember it ever existed. His radio erupted with panicked voices. The bridge is moving. Jesus Christ, the bridge is stretching. Dispatch, we need backup at Coronado. The water is turning black. All units. Civilians are reporting the city is disappearing block by block. Martinez looked in his rearview mirror. 3 blocks behind him, buildings flickered like dying television screens. People walked in circles, their faces blank, their eyes reflecting nothing. The void was claiming San Diego, and he was the only one who could stop it. Martinez started his engine, the sound cutting through the supernatural silence. He pressed the accelerator toward Coronado Bridge, toward the final protocol. But as he drove, he realized something that made his blood freeze. The photograph in his hands was changing. Now it showed him driving toward the bridge, and in the passenger seat sat a figure he recognized, Sergeant Walsh, smiling, with eyes that reflected the same endless darkness. The salt air burns my throat as I stand at the edge of Sunset Cliffs. 23 chapters of rules. 23 nights of following orders that made no sense. Until now, the radio crackles one final time. Unit 247, Final Protocol. The ocean remembers what the land forgets. My hands shake as I remove my badge. The metal feels cold against my palm, heavier than it should. Rule 23 was never written down. It was whispered, passed from officer to officer like a virus. When the count reaches 24, you choose. The waves crash below, hungry and patient. They've been waiting for decades. I think of Martinez, how his car was found empty on this same cliff. His badge missing. I think of Rodriguez, the way his eyes went hollow after his 24th night. Some sacrifices feed the machine, he'd told me. Others feed the sea. The city lights flicker behind me like dying stars. San Diego sleeps, unaware of the price paid for their peaceful nights. My radio hisses static. No more voices, no more rules. Just the choice. The badge catches moonlight as I hold it over the edge. One small piece of metal, one enormous weight. Below, the Pacific stretches endlessly. Dark water that swallowed secrets for generations. I close my eyes and feel the salt spray on my face. The rules were never about traffic stops or citations. They were about conditioning, breaking us down until we'd follow any order, until we'd make any sacrifice. The badge slips from my fingers. It falls in silence, disappearing into the hungry darkness below. But I step back from the edge. Some rules are meant to be broken. The radio on my belt crackles to life. A new voice, younger, confused, Unit 248 reporting for duty, awaiting first assignment. I pick up the radio with trembling hands. The cycle continues. Fresh meat for the machine. Unit 248. I whisper into the static. There are rules you need to know. But this time, I'll teach them differently. This time, I'll show them the edge before they fall. The salt air tastes like freedom and guilt in equal measure. In our modern world, we follow rules without question. We trust systems we don't understand. We sacrifice pieces of ourselves for the promise of order. But who writes these rules? And what happens when following them costs everything we are? The highway patrol still runs its night shifts. New officers still receive their training. And somewhere in San Diego, someone is learning rule number 1. If you've made it this far into the darkness with me, perhaps you're ready to question the rules in your own life. The morning sun bleeds orange across Interstate 5, same as it did 30 years ago. Officer Martinez adjusts his rearview mirror. The highway stretches endlessly behind him, swallowing cars like a concrete throat. He thinks about Rodriguez, about the rules that killed him. The radio crackles. Unit 47, we have a situation on mile marker 23. Martinez knows that marker, where the accidents always happen, where the rules get flexible. Copy that? Dispatch? His hands shake as he accelerates. The speedometer climbs past regulation limits, but some rules matter more than others. The smell of burning rubber fills his nostrils as he rounds the curve. There it is, the black sedan wrapped around the guardrail like a metal prayer. But the driver is walking away, unharmed, smiling. Martinez recognizes that smile. He's seen it in the station, in the captain's office, in his own mirror, some nights, the smile of someone who knows the real rules. "Sir, I need you to step back from the vehicle," Martinez calls out. The man turns. His eyes are the color of fresh asphalt, dark and endless. "Officer Martinez," the man says, though they've never met. "You're learning." The radio hisses static. No backup coming. There never is, for situations like this. Martinez feels the weight of his badge. The metal burns cold against his chest. The highway takes what it's owed. The man continues. Rodriguez understood that. Eventually, the words hit like ice water. Rodriguez never spoke about his final call. Never spoke about anything after. Martinez's hand moves to his weapon, but his fingers won't close around the grip. Some rules run deeper than training. "Your choice, officer," the man whispers, though he's 50 feet away. "Follow the book or follow the road." The asphalt beneath Martinez's feet feels warm, alive, pulsing. He thinks about his daughter's graduation next month, about the pension he'll never collect if he chooses wrong, about the accidents that will keep happening mile after mile until someone pays the price. The man slides back into his destroyed sedan. The engine purrs to life, impossible and perfect. Martinez watches the car drive away, leaving no tire tracks on the burning pavement. His radio crackles again. "Unit 47, status report." Martinez stares at the empty guardrail, at the highway that stretches forever in both directions. "False alarm, dispatch," he whispers. Nothing to report. But as he drives away, he sees them in his mirrors. All the other officers who learned the rules, all the other guardians of the endless road, watching, waiting, smiling. Every mile marker a gravestone, every patrol car a hearse. How many rules are you willing to break to keep the ones that matter? Subscribe if you dare to drive the highway where justice has no speed limit.